As I promised, it's Women's History Month, and we're bringing you some powerhouse women who have expertise to empower the women that we're connected to online. And I cannot wait to share with you today's special guests. Today, I want to talk about why women, in honor of Women's History Month, why women make great leaders. And I couldn't have that conversation by myself. In a second, I'll introduce you to our special guest. If you're joining me for the first time, my name is Linnita Hosten, and people call me when they're ready to become a better communicator so that they can effectively lead their teams with confidence. We'll get excited to do that work. And while we're in the midst of doing that, it's also our job to empower those women leaders. Check out this video clip from our special guests for today.
10 years ago, people were fine exchanging their time for a paycheck. But post-COVID, that's no longer enough. We've seen the great resignation, the quiet quit. A paycheck is not enough. People need so much more. They need to be cared for. They need to work for inspiring leaders. They need to know their work matters and that it's meaningful. And if that isn't built into an organization, you're going to see people revolt. We're already seeing them. The people revolution is here.
Now, if that is not special, I don't know what is. Welcome, Kendra, to Excellence in Everything Live. We're so excited to share your wisdom with the world. Tell us who you are.
Oh my goodness, it's so great to be with you. Thank you so much for having me here. Such an honor. So my name is Kendra Prospero, and I'm a CEO and founder of a HR consulting firm called Turning the Corner, based out of Colorado. We serve companies all around the country, but primarily small businesses that have less than 200 employees that just haven't really put the focus on the people that now they need to. And so we bring a full outsourced HR team to those organizations to help them with hiring the right people and get them in the right seat on the bus, helping make sure that they are then effective at their job because they're well trained and they're well onboarded. And then also make sure that we've got the right infrastructure in place so that the managers can continue to be the best managers that they can possibly be, and therefore hit a culture and have a culture where people are thriving. Because that is what we want to increase profitability, make leading easier, because we know we have the team that we can rely on during the ups and downs of running a business.
For sure. Well, it must be such a blessing for your team to come in and support organizations. You said something on YouTube, on your YouTube video that struck my ear, and it said, people have to be called into leadership. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think that with the baseline of that, you like people, anybody can be a leader of other people and a leader, of course, of themselves. You do have to like people, but once you have that sort of fundamental background of just at least enjoying being around people, then you can be trained to become a great manager. And then that can then lead you into a spot where then you are leading others to follow something that is bigger and greater than the task at hand. And so that is when I say called into leadership, it means that that there's somebody that definitely enjoys that process of getting people to rally around them and getting them to to do something greater and bigger than what one individual can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And when I saw that comment, I said, wow, that was me. I would have never stepped up, not only as a woman, but in general, if I didn't feel affirmed by the person who was pulling me up. And so I said,
Mhm.
Kendra's onto something. Tell us about how you evolved as a woman in leadership. Were you born a leader, or was it something you developed?
Well, I think it is definitely a little bit of both. And so I remember having moments and being drawn into and drawn to the conversations around how to help people be happier in their jobs ever since I was little. Matter of fact, this isn't necessarily a leadership calling, but my favorite book when I was a kid was What Do People Do All Day by Richard Scarry. I love, love talking to people about the work they do and why they do it. And so that is definitely a natural propensity that I've had since I was small. But in terms of really developing myself as a leader, that it required lots and lots of mentoring, lots of coaching, training, experiences. I mean, you cannot neglect how important great experience is, with then being backed by then a team that helps you become the better person that you want to be. So, matter of fact, I think that most managers and leaders become the very best managers and leaders when they are open to the coaching and open to training, because so much of being a great leader is a skill. We can
Mm,
be taught lots and lots of things, but we do, again, innately have to have that desire to be with people, around people, to make that actually work. But I mean,
mm.
think about like difficult conversations, the topic you teach on. How many of us were born to do well having difficult conversations?
None
Like
of us.
none of us, right? It's a skill, like what you teach, and I teach a version of it too, specifically for managers. Like, we have to be taught how to do that and then practice it every day, which those of us are in real leadership roles, that's what we get to do, is practice it every single day and just get better and
Mhm.
better and better at it, to the point where it comes a little bit more naturally. But most of us aren't born with that. So I think that's a perfect example of a
Yeah.
leadership skill that is learned, not necessarily innately given to us. Some of
For
us
sure.
might have been born with that, but I definitely wasn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. Good point. That's also something I was not born with. I also wasn't born with the ability to receive feedback. That's also a skill I had to grow in, being comfortable in that and giving it too, which I will also define as a leadership skill. What are some other traits that would be a green light that a woman is displaying strong leadership? Like, what are some traits that come to mind when you think of a strong woman leader?
So I think what makes women just excellent leaders, and I'm not saying that men can't do this either, but most women are more innately born with the empathy that's needed to be a great manager. And I really emphasize the word empathy because um, part of being a great leader is recognizing and understanding that every one of us have a different story. For example, we have the story of what we're good at, the story of the things that we maybe love to do, but maybe aren't
Mhm.
as good at, or the story of things that we are really good at, but we don't really like doing it. And a good empathetic leader, whether you're a woman or a man, is going to be able to see those sorts of things and then help get you as an individual on the right track, either getting you into a role where your strengths, as I call them, the intersection of your skills and your passion is your strength, is being used in the job. That's actually why I named my company Turning the Corner, is helping people turn the corner and be who they really are. And women tend to have that more as an innate skill, of that empathy. But then the other one I would say is then also a curiosity, and more of a curiosity in approaching things as opposed to judgment. And again, could be a male or a female who does this well, but women tend to come from it a little bit, from most difficult conversations, from a place of curiosity, to say, well, tell me a little bit more about that. What was happening for you? Tell me a little bit more about what was the background there. And because of that too, that helps draw out then the great parts of who someone is. And that is what makes a very good leader, is being able to create that environment where people truly feel like they can be themselves.
Yeah, that empathy, that's one thing Kendra said. Being coachable, you said previously, but also getting curious, asking those questions and listening before drawing those assumptions. Those are great. Those are great traits. And you're right, a man could have them too. They could have them too. You know, you have some experience at IBM, I hear.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that shaped your leadership perspective.
Well, it is kind of the dose of medicine I needed to really build my empathy. Um, I went to go work for IBM as a software engineer. Really? I mean, you've known me for like 5 minutes. I'm sure none of you would have said, I bet she's a software engineer. so, so I mean, that was for my first experience on having a skill in something. As a matter of fact, I was quite good at technology and like I have a very technical mind. But what I was not passionate about was sitting and writing code all day long, 40 hours a week. And so every day I would come home just drained of energy. It was definitely not my joyful best self. I could do the job, but it really just wasn't something that just made me bounce out of bed every day. And I just thought that, I don't know, I think like a lot of people do when they're young, like, well, it's work. Work is supposed to suck. And so I'll just keep slogging through it because that's what I've been told my whole life. And so that must be what it is. But then what I realized, and I had a fantastic first manager at IBM, a couple really great ones through the years, but my first manager was by far my most memorable, and that he really helped shepherd me around and helped me see that what my gift was is communicating with people and communicating complex ideas in a way that helps people realize that they can do it. And so I started presenting. I was presenting our technical solutions. I wasn't doing like what the work you and I do now, but definitely got in front of lots of audiences, just communicating our really expensive, difficult solutions. And then eventually ended up in a role putting together a leadership development program for managers. And it was
Wow.
through that journey that I realized what my true calling is, which is
Wow.
really to help people be the best version of themselves. And that was what really prompted me then to open up my business, was that sort of difficult medicine of experiencing what it was like to hate a job, move into a job that was okay, to moving into a job that just time flew by and I just loved everything I was doing. And once I had a taste of that, I wasn't going to go back. Because once you love a job, you don't ever want another job in your life that you don't love.
For sure. That is a powerful testament of what we call professional sponsorship, when someone takes you under their wing and is invested in making sure you're meeting your or have an opportunity to be exposed to other things. Awesome. And then having the audacity to even try, because were you exercising the skills of putting together a training before?
No, the only reason I got picked to do that program was that our particular division of IBM got bought out and we were now a smaller company. And I happened to be one of the only people left who had gone through the IBM amazing executive training. And so they said, well, hey, since you went through that training, you probably could teach it, which is a very obscure, absurd thing to think. But it turned out that yeah, actually, I could do it, and that was probably
So
my
good.
second best boss. Was the boss that saw that in me too. She said, "Hey, listen, I've watched you." She actually recruited me in my early days, so she had known me for a really long time, and I think she said, "I think you really could do this, and maybe would even love doing this." And sure enough, she was spot on with that. She saw my gift before I saw
Mm.
it. It was
The
great.
power in just trusting. When someone sees something in you, man, this is a beautiful story. Okay, Kendra, there are two types of audiences that I have the pleasure of working with, and I want to hear your words of wisdom that you'll share with them, and we'll close with this. The first group is that emerging leader. They're likely a junior in their role, but they are already displaying strong leadership skills. In fact, they've come with that. Now they don't have the work experience to be considered for some of the leadership roles or advanced or senior level employment, but they're certainly on track. What advice would you share to them?
Okay, this is advice that if I had been given this advice when I was an emerging leader, I probably would have not listened to, first and foremost. So I know this is a little bit of a challenge here, but I would recommend to you that you be a little bit patient through this process. Here is the reality is that you definitely have the skills to do this job, and that is amazing. And it is going to take you some time to really get the experience to do it well. And so, my recommendation is that you are open to feedback. You get as much coaching as you possibly can. You take as many trainings as you possibly can, and then adopt the things that you are learning. Because the faster you adopt what you're learning and then adapt your leadership to it, the faster you're going to actually get promoted into that role. I was a very impatient emerging leader, and that I just wanted to be there right away. And I look back on my early days as a team lead that then got promoted into a manager. They then got promoted into managing, a larger team, along those lines. And now I, run my own company. When I think about that journey, and I think about how far I've come since those early days, like I was not ready. I was not ready. And I'm so grateful. Some parts of my leadership journey were spoon fed to me because I think I would have really screwed up my career and derailed my career if I hadn't had it come at me a little bit slower. So just be a little bit patient and realize like you don't want to peak when you're 28 years old. I mean, what are you going to do the rest of your life, right? So it's okay for the journey to be a little bit slower, knowing that everything you're doing, everything your experiences is leading you to that bigger and larger role. And so just be a little bit patient with it and be super open to all of the different opportunities that you have for learning and growing. Don't get a fixed mindset. Once you do that, you're going to shut down all chances of being a great leader down the road.
Kendra said it. She said that coachable word came out, getting the training, being patient. Thank you for that. You also said adapting and adopting. I like that. I like that. Adopting those principles that you learned and then adapting to them in your environment.
Yeah.
So for the other side of those that I serve, these are senior leaders who want to emerge to executive leadership. What advice do you have for those individuals? And typically, Kendra, when they're coming, they're still growing in some of their communication skills, but they do desire leadership,
Yeah.
executive leadership.
Yeah. So, being a good executive leader is being able to play a much longer game, seeing a much bigger picture. Now that I am, running this company and always on the lookout for great executives to join my team, what I notice is the biggest difference between an executive that is absolutely ready and one that is close to being ready is being able to really see the bigger picture. And the only way you're going to see the bigger picture is again through that curiosity. And so I had a guy working for me for many years that I still am, best friends with. I mean, we're still very close. But I didn't move as fast as he thought he should move in terms of becoming an executive on my team. And the reality of it is that he wasn't seeing the big picture, and it wasn't going to make sense for him to become an executive on my team because he didn't understand how all of the functions fit together. And so that let me describe that a little bit more deeply. When you
Okay.
think of the functions of running a business, you've got almost like a wheelhouse, right? You have operations, you have technology, you have human resources, you have marketing, you have sales, you have managing, you have the strategy. So all of those various pieces all fit together to make a company run. And as a new or as an executive, emerging executive, the more you know about each one of those functions, the better you're going to be at seeing the big picture. So when I'm coaching executives on career switches, what I'm always talking to them about is drawing out that wheelhouse. Like, what are all the things that you need to know to be a great executive? And it's going to be those 8 things I just said. I can feel that I was missing one, and I apologize there. But I said 7, and I think there's one more. I don't remember which one I missed. But anyway, go through that wheelhouse and say, what piece are you really great at? And if you're really great, like for me, I was great at technology. I can cross that off. I don't need to go and work as a CIO. Like I already understand technology inside and out, so you don't need to do that. How about marketing? Well, if you don't know a lot about marketing, go get a job working somewhere in marketing to understand what that function looks like. What's the outcomes? What makes it a role that's incredibly critical to the business? Finance. Oh my goodness. If you don't know and understand finance, you are not ready to be an executive. That's just the way that it is. If you don't understand how all of those pieces come together with a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet and cash flow statements and aging receivables at a minimum, you're not ready to be an executive. You got to go learn that. And so those are some of the functions that I think are super critical for building out that big picture that you need to be a good executive.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you. Know comprehensively the business inside and out. Comprehensively, not just your role that you're good at.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I think we've left the people with some wisdom here. What do you think?
I hope so, yes.
Kendra, it's a pleasure to have you. If someone wants to follow up with you or learn more about what you offer or how you can support their organization, where should they go to?
Well, you could start with the website, which is turningthecornerhr.com. That will take you to at least the business. And then if you want to learn just more specifically about me, you can go to kendraprospero.com. That's my speaker website, but you can reach out and find me there. You can also send an email. The fastest way to get to me is actually not through my direct email because I am inundated with spam right now. So I'm recommending you send an email to info@turningthecornerhr.com. Believe it or not, that'll get to me the fastest because I just cannot get through all the piles of email I got on some list, and it is a disaster right now. So I've got people and helpful people monitoring the info at turningthecornerhr.com website or email address. So, but I would love to hear from your people. And if you are struggling at all to just kind of turn the corner into the next part of your career, I love talking to people about that. There's just not a job I don't know about, and I
Mm.
see people really quickly. You probably are the same way, or you can see them really quickly and help kind of just get them pointed in the right direction on what they might do to really increase and help their career.
Hmm. People need a Kendra. We all need a Kendra. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you on this week's podcast. And until next
Thank
time, bye,
you.
everyone.